Greetings, Poké fans! Michael here. Quick little bit of self-promo before the video gets started. Earlier this week, I started a brand new co-op Let's Play with the wonderful A-Drive, and if you haven't checked it out, the first 3 episodes have gone live already. We are doing a shiny race in randomized Sun and Moon. We found some crazy shinies already, so you should definitely check it out. I'll put a link to the first episode up in the cards up there, and we're also giving away a Nintendo Switch as part of the launch of the series as well. Link in the description below. Most every Pokemon fan knows that there's a large variety in how easy a Pokemon is to catch. There's ones that are absolutely no problem, like Pidgey or Caterpie, but there's some that can be a bit more difficult, like a lot of legendary Pokemon and Pokemon in the Safari Zone. But there are some Pokemon out there that are so rare or so just difficult to actually battle that many of you have probably never caught them. I decided to take a look at some of these Pokemon by counting down the top 10 Pokemon you've probably never caught. Now before I get into the video, I just want to explain that the word choice of caught is very important here. For a Pokemon to be caught, it has to be battled and have a Pokeball thrown at it and stay in that Pokeball. So Pokemon that are impossible to catch, so Pokemon that are only distributed via events where you don't actually battle the Pokemon, or Pokemon that can only be obtained by breeding or as gift Pokemon, don't count. You've never caught them, but every Pokemon on this list is going to be a Pokemon where it is possible to battle it and throw a ball and catch it in some game or another. So that means that these Pokemon are indeed possible to catch. It's just probably very few of you have been able to because they're so rare, or so few of you have been willing to put in the massive amount of effort required to catch them. So if you do happen to have any of these Pokemon that you caught, then that's really amazing because you're obviously one of the few, the proud, the Marines. Also, this should be obvious, but I'm gonna say it just in case. I'm only gonna be covering Pokemon that can be found through legitimate capture methods. So Pokemon in randomizers don't count, nor do glitch Pokemon. So be sure to leave a like on the video, comment below some Pokemon you think most people have probably never caught, and subscribe if you haven't already. And without further ado, here are the top 10 Pokemon you've probably never caught. Number 10. Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, and Hitmontop. The Hitmons are Pokemon that are well known and have been around for quite some time, so probably most of you have owned all 3 of them at some point or another. But if you haven't played Colosseum and XD, I know for a fact that you have never battled and caught these Pokemon. Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan and Hitmontop cannot be found in the wild in any main series game. The only way to obtain them is to either get them as a gift in the Kanto Fighting Dojo or evolve a Tyrogue. Colosseum and XD are a different story though. In Pokemon Colosseum, you have the chance to snag a Shadow Hitmontop in a Gate Village, and in Pokemon XD, you can snag Shadow Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan at Citadark Isle. Now while I know that many of you probably have played these games and caught these Pokemon, hence the number 10 spot on this list, a lot of you I know probably haven't played these games since they're older spin-off games, so I really wanted to include them on this list still. Number 9, a low-level Salamence. Like Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan, you can snag a Shadow Salamence in Pokemon XD on Citadark Isle. So while it's not super likely that you caught that, since not a whole lot of people have played XD, it's still reasonably realistic that a solid chunk of you have. However, a low-level Salamence is a different story. When I say low-level, I mean level 10. As many of you know in Pokemon Sun and Moon, there's things called SOS battles, where a Pokemon, if its health gets low, will call for help, causing another Pokemon to show up to provide it aid, and you end up in a 2-on-1 battle. Most Pokemon call in Pokemon that are the same species as them. There are some Pokemon that only show up if it's a certain weather pattern, but several Pokemon call in their evolved forms. The most extreme example of this though happens on Route 3 in the Alola region. Bagon there has a 1% encounter rate, so it's going to take you a while to find one then, but then once it starts SOS calling, it has a very low chance, only about 1% I believe, to call in a Salamence that will range from levels 9 to 12. Considering the rarity of this and the efforts you would have to go to find one, I don't think very many of you have caught one of these Salamences. Number 8. Darkrai and Shaymin. I decided to lump these two Pokemon together because their stories are very similar, but before I get into the rest of the details, I just want you to be very aware that if you've never actually caught these Pokemon, there's really no shame in that. I'm not sorry. Well, many of you probably got these Pokemon through the Mystery Gift 20th Anniversary distributions that happened last year. I doubt there's very many of you that actually obtained these Pokemon legitimately back in the Generation 4 games. In order to battle and catch a Darkrai or Shaymin, you must have obtained the member card for Darkrai or the Oaks letter for Shaymin, which were event items distributed back in Generation 4. But only for 1 month at a time each in each of the 3 different regions. So if you missed that narrow time window all those years ago, then you have never caught a legitimate Darkrai or Shaymin. By the way, side note, none of you have ever battled and caught a legitimate Arceus because the Azure Flute, the same item that triggered similar events in the Gen 4 games, was never officially released. Number 7, Deoxys in Gen 3. Most of you probably battled and caught Deoxys in Omega Ruby or Alpha Sapphire, and several more of you probably received Deoxys through a couple different Wi-Fi events in which it was distributed. But I don't think very many of you at all got to battle a Deoxys in the original Generation 3 games. In Fire Red, Leaf Green, and Emerald, if you received the Aurora ticket from one of the Pokemon Rocks America Tour events or some other events in Japan, you could take a boat to Birth Island, where after solving the challenging moving a triangle around puzzle, you could battle a level 30 Deoxys, which would change form depending on your game after you caught it. But considering how long ago these events occurred and the sparse frequency that they did, and the fact you had to be there in person for them, I doubt very many of you have caught a Deoxys back in Gen 3. Number 6, Munchlax in Diamond, Pearl, or Platinum. Munchlax is found in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum by slathering honey on honey trees, coming back later, and then seeing if it showed up. However, of the 21 trees across the Sinnoh region, only 4 have the possibility of spawning a Munchlax. And which 4 spawn Munchlax depends on the player. So if your friend finds one that has Munchlax, that doesn't mean that yours will spawn Munchlax too. And then, even if you find all 4 trees that spawn Munchlax, it only has a 1% chance of showing up. But the real kicker here is that this isn't random encounters. Even if there was a different Pokemon that only had a 1% encounter rate and where you could find it was different for every person, once you figured out where it was, you could probably find it relatively quickly since you could get maybe 6, 7, 8 encounters a minute depending on the game. But these are honey trees. You slather honey on the tree and then have to wait hours for 1 encounter. It's absurd, and I don't know about you, but I never wanted to go to that effort. To get Munchlax in my decks for those games, I transferred in a Snorlax from Leaf Green and bred it. Also, can we just talk about the fact that Barry has a Snorlax? That means that even though he is incredibly incompetent, he is also somehow incredibly lucky. Number 5, Hooh and Lugia on Naval Rock. So these two are a very similar story to Deoxys. I am sure that you have caught both Hooh and Lugia in any of the several games that are available like Gold, Silver, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, and several others too. But very few have sailed to Naval Rock in Fire Red, Leaf Green, or Emerald and found Hooh at the top and Lugia at the bottom, battled them, and caught them, since in order to do that you had to get the Mystic Ticket, an item like the Aurora Ticket, which was only distributed at the Pokemon Rocks America Tour and other events in Japan. And since probably very few of you actually went to those events, even fewer of you caught those Pokemon. Number 4, a shiny Chancy in the Fire Red Leaf Green Safari Zone. Chancy is a giant pain to try and catch in the Safari Zone. It only has a 1% encounter rate, has a low catch rate of only 30, and it can run from you. A shiny Chancy is not incredibly difficult to find since you could Masuda method breed for it, or you can SOS hunt for it in Sun and Moon since several different Pokemon call Chancy. However, finding a shiny in the Fire Red Leaf Green Safari Zone and catching it, I specify Fire Red and Leaf Green because shinies didn't exist in Red, Blue, and Yellow, would be incredibly lucky. Also, I chose Chancy here over the other 1% encounter rate Pokemon in the Safari Zone because Chancy has the lowest catch rate of all of them, even below Dragonair. Number 3, Mew. Mew is another elusive event Pokemon, but even though there's been many opportunities all throughout the generations to obtain a Mew via events, only one of those events allowed you to actually battle and capture it. In Pokemon Emerald, if you went to an event and obtained the old sea map, you could sail to Faraway Island, where you could battle a level 30 Mew and try to catch it. But getting this old sea map was even rarer than all of the other event items we've already discussed. The only way to get a legitimate old sea map was if you went to one of the Pokemon Festa events that only happened in Japan, and the only ones that gave away the old sea map happened for 1 month that you had to be at in person. So it is highly unlikely that very many of you at all were able to obtain this map and then battle and catch a Mew. By the way, friendly reminder that glitch Pokemon don't count, so if you caught a glitch Mew in Red, Blue, or Yellow, that doesn't count. Number 2, a Spinda with an identical pattern to one you already have. Spinda is quite the odd Pokemon. It is this drunk-seeming, swirly-eyed, red-spotted panda that just wobbles around and doesn't seem to do very much. But it's actually pretty interesting because of its spot patterns. As you know, they vary from Spinda to Spinda. But it's not like Minior where there's 7 or so different options. There's not even 100 different options. The amount of options of spot patterns seem infinite, because a Spinda's spot patterns are determined by its personality value in the game's code, which is a 32-bit number. A simplistic model puts the odds of finding 2 different Spinda with the exact same pattern at less than 1 in 4 billion. And don't even get me started on finding 2 different shiny Spinda with the same pattern. That would be nuts. Number 1. A shiny Pokemon in Pokemon Colosseum. The spin-off Pokemon games, Pokemon Colosseum and XD, are great games that I love a lot, but for many are shrouded in mystery since spin-off games do things a bit differently and they're older games that not everyone has played. And one of the many mysteries surrounding these games is their shiny Pokemon. I've looked at countless debates on the internet about whether or not shiny Pokemon can be found in Colosseum and XD, but I finally got a definitive answer from Bulbapedia. In Pokemon XD, they cannot be found. It is impossible. They coded the game so that every single Pokemon you encounter will never be shiny. But in Colosseum, you can find a shiny Pokemon, and shadow Pokemon you encounter have the regular Gen 3 odds of 1 in 8,192 of being shiny. But here's the kicker. After you have captured a Pokemon and it sends it to your party or PC, it re-rolls the odds. What that means is that if you find a shiny Pokemon in battle, there is only a 1 in 8,192 chance that it will still be shiny when you go to your PC or party and look at it. But conversely, if you catch a regular shadow Pokemon in the game, there is a 1 in 8,192 chance that it will suddenly be shiny if you look at it. Considering the absurdity of the chances with this glitch, the fact that there's a limited number of shadow Pokemon in the game with there only being about 40, and the fact that many of you simply haven't played Colosseum made me decide to put this entry at number 1 on the list, since many of you have probably never caught a shiny Pokemon in Colosseum. Which is a shame since a lot of the shiny models in these games are amusingly different from what they normally are. So there we have it. Those are the top 10 Pokemon you've probably never caught. If you have actually caught any of these Pokemon legitimately, other than the Hitmons and Colosseum XD, because those are the only ones that I've actually done, let me know in the comments below because I'm very curious to see. What did you think of this video? Do you agree with my list? What are some other Pokemon you think most people have probably never caught? Let me know down in the comments below! And if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, it helps me out a lot, and if you are not already subscribed, you should definitely do so, because I make a bunch of fun Pokemon content that I am sure you will enjoy. And if you are a fan of the stuff I do here on this channel, you should check out my content in other places, like my Twitch where we do lots of fun live streams, my second channel where I do some fun non-gaming content, and my Patreon where you can earn some cool exclusive behind the scene perks for helping support me. Alright, that's all I have for now, so till next time, fans, gotta catch them all!